What's going on here? Are all of my viewers closet Christians? Even PMAR's subscribed. What are you doing? Click the buttons, please.
And sometimes confirmation bias can be good. It's usually bad, but it can be good sometimes. But because of his confirmation bias to defend the Catholic Church and its teachings on water baptism, he conveniently ignores Jesus' explanation.
Yeah, also, don't we believe in 3 sacraments rather than 7?
Well,
7?
what we would refer to them as ordinances rather than sacraments.
Oh, right.
Right. So if you want to refer to them as sacraments, I'm not going to find fault with you. But if somebody does call them sacraments, we don't believe that they provide salvific impartment. Okay? They're not a conduit to salvific grace. That's why it's preferable to call them ordinances.
Oh, okay. So, like, there's 3 ordinances rather than, 7 sacraments.
Right. So the Catholic Church teaches that you have to practice these sacraments in order to incrementally receive salvific grace. That is a false tradition of men that nullifies the Word of God about what the gospel of Jesus is.
Yeah, and I just don't see where they get work-based salvation. Like, after reading the Bible, it really makes sense that they have kind of like an emotional bias, I guess.
You have to remember this.
Yeah.
The Bible teaches that God tempts no man, but each one is drawn away by their own illicit desires. Now, people's illicit desires, there's a wide spectrum of illicit desires. Sometimes it's substances that I can't mention, otherwise I'll get banned on TikTok. Sometimes it can be illicit physical relationships. Other things, it can be adhering to certain doctrines that are illicit because they're incompatible with what the Bible teaches. So if we disregard what God plainly reveals, okay, then we are sitting ducks to be drawn away by things that we would like to believe is true rather than what is actually true. Because when we disagree what God has clearly revealed, or we don't expose ourselves, we're going to want to believe these doctrines of devotion to Mary because she finds them so appealing that they're demonic. Okay?
Right.
When they are...
They'll begin to be defensive and unopen.
Right, they're going to think that you're reacting because you're anti-Catholic.
Oh,
when in fact these doctrines of Mary are literally demonic when you compare it to the Bible. But if I sit there and says, well, your devotion to Mary is demonic, right, which is true, it's not going to sink in because she's blinded by her confirmation bias and groupthink. She doesn't want to imagine that all of these people, all of these hundreds of millions of people around the world having devotions to Mary are following demonic teachings. The only way to know that something is demonic in origin is to show that it's a clear contradiction to what the Bible teaches. Okay? And so it's difficult to get through to people who are in cults. It's the same reason why it's difficult to deal with Muslims. Most Muslims you're going to encounter, unless you're dealing with Muslims from Southeast Asia, are going to be of some type of Arabic descent. And so there's a very close connection between the sociological, national, ancestral atmosphere and language center, being Arabic, right? They don't want to imagine that all of these people were duped by Muhammad and that Islam, as taught by Muhammad, was a complete bastardization of Christianity. that Islam is an Arabic misrepresentation of the Bible. And when you talk with your average Muslim, especially male, unless they have, they reject it and become atheists, it's very difficult getting through to them, because you've got to break through their groupthink. They don't want to believe all these people are wrong. When I first started studying the Bible, I had to say to myself, well, if my understanding of the Bible is true and Catholicism is a misrepresentation, that means all the Catholics in the world are wrong. Okay? But
Right.
I wasn't heavily influenced by groupthink. It would be nice to believe that all of these people aren't wrong. But at the same time, I've always thought as a child, when I would watch documentaries on TV where they would present controversial things in human history, I would always say, okay, good. There are these controversial and conflicting accounts. They both can't be true. So somebody has a misunderstanding or a misrepresentation of the facts. Okay? And having numbers is not a guarantee that it's true. I've listened to you in other chats. You are so unruly, Redefine. Okay? He's now, Redefine Living is claiming to be the victim of kicked out of another chat. We all know Redefined. We all know how rude and obnoxious you are, Redefine. I'm joking. He's not the act. He presents himself in a far more adult manner than even Darth Dawkins does. I've listened to Redefine in chats, and Redefine is a great Christian apologist, both biblical presuppositionally